Websites are being mismanaged due to a systemic confusion about the importance of the role they play in pipeline generation. And it fundamentally is rooted in mismeasurement of the impact of the website, which leads marketers to deprioritize it versus other KPIs that they've been set, other channels that they've been told to optimize, and the messages of other software vendors and platform vendors who are constantly in their ear advising them how to improve their use of those platforms, softwares, and channels. And speaking to a lot of website marketers as we do, it's become increasingly clear to me that very few are in possession of the information or the data to be able to think about their website's impact on their business in terms of revenue generated. Very few are able to scrutinize their real pipeline and closed won revenue in a way that reveals to them the very significant and the very important role that their website plays in a vast majority of that pipeline. And add to that fact that the website investments, for example, in your hosting provider or your CMS, as long as your website stays online and loads reasonably fast, your investment in that infrastructure is unlikely to come under the same level of scrutiny as your use of channels like LinkedIn and Google, like your use of automation software, like your use of, content creation software, AI tools. As long as your website's up and as long as it's loading fast enough, whoever you host your website with and whatever CMS it's on is likely to be considered good enough. As a result, those vendors are not in your ear all the time telling you how to optimize your website for your business's results. All of this leads to a scenario where websites become this very sensitive topic that people sort of know in the back of their mind ought to be invested in more, ought to be improved, but can never be prioritized. As a result, years go by in between improvements being made to it until such a point is reached that it's now critical, and now everybody agrees that the website is in dire need of attention. But it's such a large investment in this sort of like one-off context compared to all the other smaller investments that we make, that there's a real struggle to rationalize the amount of money that needs to be spent or should be spent in order to make the necessary improvements. So websites are this crazy part of the go-to-market where they're never subjected to the right type of scrutiny and the right type of measurement, meaning they're not continually optimized, worked on, improved. And then when the time comes where that's an absolute necessity, the cost of doing it has grown to such a large size that we have a collective breakdown about how to budget for it and how to afford it. But in reality, you almost can't invest enough in your website when you really understand the role it's playing in the way your buyers already buy. And if you're able to look at pipeline and look at revenue and look at sources of intent and look at the real buyer's journey, I think it becomes impossible to ignore the very important role of your website in that journey, and it becomes impossible to not want to invest more in its optimization. Marketers will often turn to marketing attribution tools, techniques, methodologies in order to measure and report on the impact of marketing and in order to justify the investments they want to make. The very real problem with attribution is that it will almost never highlight the website as a key component in the creation of opportunities in the pipeline and revenue. They will assign credit to channels, touch points, impressions, typically on advertising platforms and the like. Rarely, if ever, will it say that the website is responsible for at least 50% of the value of the opportunities in the pipeline, which in many cases it will be if you look at how buyers really consume and navigate content. So trusting what marketing attribution tells you in terms of where to invest will likely never lead you to prioritize your website, which is probably a massive disservice to your business because it's playing a very critical role in every single opportunity that's entering your pipeline, whether it's won or lost. And yet your marketing attribution software will never tell you that your website is a place to invest. It will always tell you to optimize one or another channel, for impressions and clicks. I think that revealing the true value of the website to business leadership, starts with split funnel analysis. It starts with looking at pipeline and segmenting it by the intent that was the product of the opportunity in the first place. Whether the people that are in the pipeline and that close won revenue were anonymous up until the point that they engaged with your website, consumed content on it and converted, or were the product of the primary other channels being outbound efforts and lead gen, very often being the primary other sources of contacts in the database, whether they become opportunities or not. Using that analysis, you can start to show people the very real role that the website is having in the creation of opportunities already, and then start to build the case for investing in it and optimizing in it, because you're then able to measure an impact. If you're able to increase your visitor to high intent conversion rate on your website, then you'll be having a very real impact in terms of pipeline and revenue.